So Charlie, aka the Penguins of Madagascar, is getting a lot of fire and he's being mowed like grass from a lot of people misinterpreting his perception of the iDubbbz apology. And honestly, I'm here to make a video about this because I felt like everything he was saying was actually a bit in tune with exactly what I was saying in my previous video about the whole entire situation. Alright, long story short, Penguinz was justifying what iDubbbz was doing and actually agreeing with him moving on and saying that, hey, it's okay that he can do that and there's not a problem with that. And he was also expressing the idea that he didn't think that iDubbbz should beat himself up over his content. I also do feel this same way, so I had to also give my own thoughts about it. Like I said in my last video, iDubbbz was not killing people with his content, so he shouldn't beat himself up so badly over it. And I don't think it's insane to think that way in the slightest because this is all a part of content creation. Yeah, iDubbbz may look back at his content and not like what he did, and me personally, I don't think he should regret that, and Penguinz, he thinks it's perfectly fine for him to regret that and move on. I think it's perfectly fine for iDubbbz to move on, but I don't think that he should regret what he did. I think he should look at things more positively and maybe take pride in the content cop. That's how I personally feel, and it's just gonna stay that way. Because I don't think that content was evil, and many other people, aka Penguinz, don't think that way either. But like I also said in my last video, people will take whatever you say, no matter how good or bad, and they will turn it into something that it's not, which is why Penguinz also had to cover his own neck in another video. And I think that kind of proves my point because really, if you watch both of Penguinz' videos, he doesn't say anything wrong. How many people do you think actually sat through the entire Penguinz video? It's probably around the same amount of people that it takes to actually screw in a light bulb. Regardless of what you say, good or bad, people are just gonna take it and warp it no matter what. So I don't think iDubbbz should beat himself up over his content because regardless of whether or not he's actually having negative intent or good intent, people are gonna take it and feel some type of way about it. And if people feel some type of way about it, that's just something that's out of his control and he should not be so upset over it. He does feel like he hurt people, but then again, no matter what you do, even if it's a good thing, it's just gonna hurt people. So at that point, you probably shouldn't even have a YouTube channel. And that just sounds crazy. Why even not have a YouTube channel anymore? This may come as a no-brainer to some of you, but as a content creator, you definitely just gotta be yourself. And if people aren't willing to accept you for yourself or what you say, and if they're able to twist it or not, then you're just gonna have to accept that fact. And if you can't convey your message properly, then you're just gonna have to work on perspective and trying to dish out your ideas clearly and a lot more transparently so that people can understand you. Charlie does apologize for coming across a certain type of way to offend people over what he said in the video, which I kind of feel like is unnecessary because I think his ideas were actually transparent. And I feel that same way when it comes to iDubbbz's content cop. There was no malicious intent, and there was definitely no malicious intent in Penguinz' video responding to the entire situation. Again, everyone's just thinking some type of way, and then if someone thinks something is bad, they're automatically going to turn everything around them into a red flag. A lot of these viewers on YouTube end up having rose-tinted glasses. If they have a bad day, they're just going to take it out on anything. They're going to take it out on a viewer and just go crazy in a comment section. You've all seen it time and time again. But hey, that just comes with the territory. These are things to think about when becoming a YouTuber, ladies and gentlemen. Choose your profession wisely. With that being said, another annoying element that comes to making content is the very fact that even though Penguinz does make a new video to actually emphasize what he was trying to say and defend himself, a lot of people are not going to actually watch that video, and guess what? He's still going to have to eat shit for it. And like I said in my last video, the same goes for iDubbbz. Whether or not he says the N-word or anything else that could be offensive to somebody, even if he's saying it in good faith or if he's genuinely just being a piece of shit while saying it, most people are not going to notice the difference. They're 9 times out of 10 only going to see what they want to see and hear what they want to hear. And I think this most critical situation and how his response is being handled by people on the internet, even though he clearly was being fair and actually being very open-minded to the situation, and now the entire bandwagon of the internet is just going to try and use this attempt to shit on the guy. Like, people were able to take just one of the most monotone creators out there that you could even watch, praiseworthy opinions on the internet, not to give this guy a grand standing ovation or anything, but they actually took everything that this guy was saying and then they made it seem like as if Penguinz of Madagascar was actually trying to make it so that it seemed as if he was hating on iDubbbz for what he was saying and saying that he wanted to fucking have iDubbbz continue to be back on his old bullshit, even though he personally wants to change. And like I've been saying, this same exact thing also applies to iDubbbz, because regardless of whether or not he's saying an edgy joke, saying the N-word or something just to be funny, and he's not genuinely trying to insult anybody, someone is just going to take it some type of way, and I can't get this through anyone's head enough. People are just going to take what they will from what's being said, and that is something that is just going to happen regardless. Regardless of what you say, how you say it, people are just going to get hurt, and I think iDubbbz needs to just accept that and ultimately do what he wants to do. Me, I don't think he should regret a single decision, but if he wants to move on, he can definitely move on. I'll respect it. No harm done. But you should not beat yourself up because people feel some type of way over what you're saying, because then again, what you need to realize is you're not actually going out the way to hurt people. Even in my last video, people thought I was trying to go against iDubbbz or something. I don't know why they were thinking that way, because all it was a completely different perspective. I did not like seeing iDubbbz feel so down and beat himself up. But I'm a bad guy for not wanting to see someone continue to ridicule themselves and hold themselves to what I think is an unrealistic standard, especially on the internet, because you cannot please everyone. And for some reason, I'm a villain or I'm a piece of shit for thinking that way. Where, just like in Penguinz0's videos, just like in iDubbbz's videos where he's joking, we both know that they have good intentions. And in my commentary, in my last video, I had good intentions, but people still took that and spun it however they want. So at this point, I think iDubbbz should not let what people say get to him. And not only that, one of the worst things about it, right, is the very fact that when dealing with this entire situation, I think iDubbbz is showing a lot of inexperience when it comes to handling people, but more so when it comes to YouTube, because although given the size of his channel and all of the hate and criticism that he's been experiencing over the years, I feel like a lot of the negative responses are really just going to his head at this point, because there's no reason to be stressing and being so upset over things that you did in the past. If you want to move on, I respect it, but there's no reason to torture yourself over it. And I think that's a pretty reasonable and justifiable response to how iDubbbz feels, because it's not ultimately a negative response. No one is shitting on him and everyone is respecting what he wants to do. Is it wrong for anyone to just not want to see iDubbbz mentally torture himself on camera? I don't think that's wrong in the slightest. And I don't think someone should be getting shit on just because they don't have the same exact view as someone else, because, okay, I may not have the same exact view as Penguinz or anyone else when it comes to what I think would be more beneficial when it comes to iDubbbz, because, for example, Happy Feet here thinks it's perfectly okay to have regrets and it's so fine to completely move on from them. Me, I don't like having regrets. I think you did what you did and there's no point in regretting that shit. Move on and just be happy. At the end of the day, both viewpoints are positive and yield the same result, just in different practices. And just because it's not in the same practice, that doesn't mean anyone wants to specifically shit on another person. Just because someone thinks that he should be happy with the content that he's made in the past and move on from it, versus being unhappy with the content that he made in the past and move on from it. At the end of the day, it's perfectly fine as long as we want what's best for someone at the end of the day, even if we don't know them. Motherfuckers can sit for hours and discuss how someone should be treating this situation, but at the end of the day, things are just gonna work different for everybody. Just like with iDubbbz's career and Penguinz0's career, both careers are completely different, but at the end of the day, they were both able to yield millions of subscribers and have their own specific success. Whether or not one career is better than another, or is ugly, or is beautiful in comparison, is completely up to the person. And just like with everyone criticizing iDubbbz, it's just up to every single person. And I don't think iDubbbz, listening to people he met in real life, really justifies his actions, because They are literally just a small margin of subscribers that he actually has and people who actually view his content and sit through his videos. Now, I'm not trying to devalue any of iDubbbz's experiences or the interactions he had with fans, but then again, a few run-ins with some fans you didn't like and a few opinions that really just disagreed with what you did before shouldn't really dictate the future of your YouTube channel. But as iDubbbz said himself, his channel does not feel like an accurate representation of himself, but then again, I don't really think that should stem away and take away from any criticisms that iDubbbz gave other people. If he's going to go as far as to ignore people hating on him now, he should have kept that same energy before. He should be able to take some pride in everything that he's done with his YouTube channel, because even then, he didn't fully, completely ruin anyone's lives. All he did was critique people who were rightfully able to be critiqued. He also got critiqued himself and joked on himself. And I think that Sam Hyde situation is a perfect example of that. And I think everyone memeing his wife is also a perfect example of that. What goes around actually just came around, and I hope he can realize that, because at the end of the day, you may have spreaded hate. You know, you got hated on yourself for doing what you did. And then again, there's no real reason as to why you need to be chastising yourself over everything you've done. You can always do better and be better without having to beat yourself up or view yourself as some sort of failure or supervillain. And that's the main point I'm trying to get across, that I think a lot of people actually think I'm just trying to shit on iDubbbz for. And surprisingly, they thought Penguinz was shitting on him too. I don't know why, but they did. And like I said, that same thing would actually apply to iDubbbz's situation, because regardless of what you say, you're just going to be attacked. And at this point, are you just submitting yourself to random attacks and unjustifiable criticism to people on the internet? Or is iDubbbz justifiably making the right decision in the situation? Honestly, I feel like he's letting a lot of criticism get to him and a lot of unjustifiable opinions affect what he's doing, because, again, regardless of what he's experienced, there's a lot more out there. You could argue that he's making a decision based on his own experiences and ignorance, because he's not seeing the bigger scope and taking into consideration what his audience actually feels and thinks. That depends on whether or not he even wants to appease to them, because he views his entire audience as degenerates. But then again, that's not the case, because 3 outings with fans doesn't speak for the wide variety of the actual fan base. And I do think iDubbbz is making the right decision and wanting to move on and better himself. However, he shouldn't be shitting on his fan base in doing so, and he also shouldn't be considering his entire fan base as a band of degenerates, when there are actually a few of them, if not a good 50% of them, that are probably not even degenerates, that we're not even taking into consideration. And I will say, he needs to stop beating himself up. With that being said, that's all I have on this one.